Hey everyone, Tara Porter here. So in this video, I want to show you how I use Asana to manage my business. I have another video, I will link it here, and in that video I talk about how I use it to run my daily to-do list. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there, but I am going to show you the other ways that I use it to run my business. Once I started doing this, it saved me a tremendous amount of time. So let me walk you through things. First of all, there's the templates folder. Basically, this has my referral links to each product, information on pricing, sometimes even a script for how I would explain the product. And so I have that right in here. You'll see a link to the video, a link to a basic pack, link to a challenge pack. And it is a great way for me to just quickly access that information without having to go to coaching codes or something like that and editing the information. It's all right here. Another thing that I have is there's a great wake-up call with Scotty Hobbs where he walks through talking about a challenge pack, and I put in that script here, and I kind of modify this as I talk with someone, but I use something like this as I'm trying to help people, and wow, I've had a ton of success with it. So I like to keep scripts that seem to work and make notes on what doesn't work to help me out for future stuff. Another thing that's not included, well, first of all, there's the morning, afternoon, evening tasks. That's in the video that you have probably already seen, and if you haven't, I'll link it here. But I've also recently added in weekly tasks. I found that for me personally, I wasn't introducing the business on Facebook as much. I was getting pretty shy. So I created a list of things that I want to post weekly, and sometimes even every other week. For example, business opportunity, I only do that every other week. But that's on my personal page. And then I have a list for my like page. See how there's post about Shakeology, and that's going to be tomorrow, which is Friday. I have a post about Shakeology on Tuesday for my personal page. That way, if someone is following both my personal and like page, they don't feel bombarded in one day like, wow, she's really pushing Shakeology today. This is getting annoying. I space it out a little bit. And I have, invite to a challenge group, share a before and after photo, have a photo of me working out. And let's say today I ended up posting a photo of me working out, but I don't have to do that for another couple days on my list. I still check it off because it's something I wanted to get done this week. And that way I'm not doing two Shakeology posts back to back. So that's that. The next strategy that I use is to track my contacts. There's a great video by Misfit Republic on how this is done in more detail, and I will also link that here. But let me just quickly give you an overview. First of all, see this list called Old Contacts? I went into this list, I went into my friends list, and I basically typed every single name in my friends list. Then, every day I try to get in touch with 2 of these people. And once I start talking to these people, I change what list they go on. So I'll take them off of this list, which is the old contacts, and I'll add them to a list that's called the active contacts. Then what I do is I assign them to me. This just makes sure that it shows up in my to-do list, and then I give a due date for when I want to chat with them next. Okay, and this automatically moves this person out of my old list. Eventually, this old list is going to be empty, and that means that I will have talked to every single friend on Facebook and just touched base with them. That is very helpful. So this is a list of on active contacts, everyone with whom I've spoken. Okay? The other thing is once they become a customer, I change what list that they are on, just the same way that I changed the list before. I had removed their name and added them as a customer. I also track my coaches. Another thing to note is as you're adding in your contacts, when I'm talking to people, up in the window, I do a couple of notes. I'll use this as an example. I have a first note with how I met them. The second note, I will talk about motivation. I might also track, as far as coaching opportunities, what things I've sent them, what videos. That really helps for me to see at a glance. Also, what products they already own. Sometimes I'll even tag based on something that they're interested in. I might type in TurboFire and have that in there. That way, if I'm ever starting a TurboFire group, I can instantly go into this tag, search for everyone who expressed interest in the group or who owns the group, and I can fill a challenge group up. So that's a great way to keep track of everything that you have. I always assign a due date for when I want to follow up with that person. So let's say I want to follow up on June 19th. I put that in there. And then when I come to the part of the day where I do follow-ups, I go to my task list and automatically those customers are listed with whom I need to follow up with. And I just write those people. The other thing is I keep track of all the friend requests that I send out. I also keep a track of kind of some templates of what I say to people, but I tend to modify this. I track the person that I'm contacting. I'm going to enter in a new name here. Let's see. Well, let's pretend that it's me. Okay, and I found myself in a group. And I will write like what group I found myself in. So let's say I met this person in a cloth diaper group, okay? I might write like something that person had talked about. Now you can see my video on expanding a network to understand what I mean by what they talked about. So check out that video because it's very helpful. But that way, once they accept my friend request, then I go in, I remove them from my friend request list, and I add them to my active contacts list. And I already have a record here of how I know that person. So I could say, hey, thanks for your comment in the cloth diaper group. How are things going, with washing your diapers? And it just helps me remember who I got in touch with, where they came from, and, kind of gives me a jumping point for talking to them. So that really helps. Another thing that I've been doing is keeping track of the posts that I do to my own personal coach team page, and I try to repeat some things that might be useful to newer coaches as they come in. For example, every week I post my blog post that talks about the business activity tracker and gives my own variation of it for the people. So that way they can access it right there at the very beginning of the business week. And I have it set up to automatically repeat every single Thursday, which is great so that they always have that. So every morning when I go in to do my posts for the day, I see what post is scheduled for today and I copy and paste it. If I end up writing a new one, and I add that to the list and I copy and paste it, that way a couple months or a couple weeks down the line, I can just copy and paste that same post again and modify it even a little bit based on how things went the first time. Another thing that I'm doing lately, which has been awesome, and you can see I just started doing it, is I've started to copy and paste the posts from the weekly coaching guide for my challenge group. So you'll recognize this as what you post from the Less Meals Pump challenge group. But I have it in here because my computer gets really grumpy with the Microsoft Word document, and it takes forever to load and is really frustrating. So I find it's just easy to have this in my Asana since I'm already there anyway. The other thing that I want to do is when I start a new group, I want to set deadlines for all of these different posts so that it automatically appears in my tasks and I just copy and paste it into the group for that day. So that's been great. See, I do that for the T25 challenge group as well. And what's nice about that is I like to modify posts, so I can modify it and I can even write a comment and give myself feedback on how group members responded to that so that I can constantly improve. I also have notes on tax preparation because every single month I do the same list of tasks. And if you're interested in a video on that, let me know. I'm a daughter of a bookkeeper and a tax preparer, so I have a pretty efficient system for how I get prepared for tax time so that I'm not sweating when it comes to April. The other thing is I like to keep track of people who are on Home Direct. This is because what I like to do is about 4 days before Home Direct, I'll say, hey, just so you know, your Home Direct order is getting ready to ship out to you soon. But there's a really good promotion right now on TurboFire that's only $20 more than what you're doing. So you can actually get a challenge pack with that if you cancel your current order and then order this challenge pack. And it's a great way to get some Success Club points that way. The other reason why I really like it is I find that sometimes my customers don't want to renew their Shakeology. And so this gives them a chance to not be surprised. They sometimes forget that they were on Home Direct. So I've had customers share with me that they would like to get a little heads up from me. That way they don't accidentally get a shipment they didn't want. Because really I want my customers to get products that they want. I don't want them to regret anything. So this is a great way to remind them and sometimes get people to get a challenge pack out of it. I track my leads using the same method as I track everyone else, and I keep track of how often I contact them and get their contact info. I also keep track of inactive coaches that I want to get in touch with every once in a while to make sure everything's okay. The other huge thing that I do is I do Shakeology samples. And I have my template here that I can just copy and paste. And what I do is this person is listed as a customer, but you can also add them to a different project. So I added them to the Shakeology samples project. I just had typed it in, okay? And so then I modify their name here just so that I can keep track of where they're at in the Shakeology sample process. So they've already been shipped the product. I've made sure that they've signed up for me as a coach, and I know the next thing I'm going to do for, this is my stepsister, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to follow up with her just to see how everything went. And once I've followed up with her, I might put a new message in. But I just make sure that I have this updated based on what needs to happen next for that person. And that's just with the Shakeology samples. Next thing is coach training. These are any links that I want to send to my coaches. For example, I've got my outline for the Getting Started Right call. I've got the webinar that I like to send for what is coaching and any other videos that I like to send to new people, information on how to earn money, and just something I could quickly get. If I've noticed someone's unfriended me, it's happened occasionally, I add them to the unfriended list so I know not to pester them. People who came to me from my site, I put them there. I also have a dream team of just people with whom I want to work with, who I want to build my team around that I really want one day. So they're there as well. And also I like to keep track of who has a coach. That way I'm not talking with people about coaching opportunities when they're already coach or they already have a coach. I don't want to step on the toes of other people. And so that is my video on how I run Asana for my business. And if there's anything that you would like a video on in more detail, let me know and I'd be happy to do so. All right, and if you need more information, also check out my website. It's fitbabysteps.com. Thanks, everyone.